Alright, welcome to episode 30, okay, not 30, 44, I think, of What If Civilization Started Over. I actually went on holiday in the past week in the UK, so I haven't recorded one of these for a week now, and yeah, that's probably why the ones weren't as good. But in the last episode, we had a major war down here in the Balkans, and as you can see, I've done the peace treaty for that war, and the Turkish country is absolutely terrifying. The Greek and Bulgarian countries don't even exist anymore. That was kind of just because there'd be no point keeping them around. Like, if I kept them in existence, there would just be a follow-up war. All my plans have them not existing. So there's not much point in me keeping them existing, so they're gone now. But Ukraine, Hungary, and Turkey are all pretty strong now. Turkey's even got a colony down here in Africa, in Libya. And they have so much naval power. They have so much naval control. They're up to like Croatia in the west, which is crazy. But yeah, that was a major event. And the other major event was an alliance that was created down here. Where's my alliance there? Oh, it's somewhere. Let me find it. Which is the Pentagon alliance between the southern Indian country and this greenish northern Indian country. Of course, we have a couple other alliances in the world. The Trapezium alliance is gone. It's just the Diamond alliance here in Eastern Europe, the Holy Polish alliance. And then there's just the circle one and the triangle one at the other ends of the globe, basically. So there we go. I need to go back to this alliance a few times in today's episode, but let's start off with a war, because wars are interesting in this series. We are going to be going to the Swedish country, who was created, I think, in like episode 36 and 37. They rebelled away from the Danes, and then in episode 36 they became an official country. 37, I mean. Never mind. Anyway, today they're going to be going to war. They could go to war like Denmark, or the Germans, or Norway, or any of these two countries. That's probably not a great idea, though. But yeah, they're going to go to war with Norway, because Norway is a lot weaker. Also, I want to talk about Denmark, because I feel like that'd be a good idea, but I won't yet. So Norway has definitely become stronger than the previous Norwegian country, and that's because there's been a lot of investment by the Danish, who own this land for a long time, because they wanted to make sure that Norway didn't rebel, which it eventually did, so that failed. Anyway, Sweden begins this invasion. The Swedish country is a lot larger, and they've been receiving more imports from like Europe and the Baltic region out here all by itself. Its capital is very far away, though. However, the Swedish military does well pushing along the coast as they try to move towards what is, I suppose, like Bergen. They go along the southern coast and get pretty close to the capital city very quickly. The Norwegians do make an alright sort of counter-offensive towards the centre of the country, capturing one major city and cutting off some troops over here, who are eventually entirely captured. They start to move up into this peninsula, and they try to move towards this major city around here, but the Swedish hold their positions. They do lose this bit. Unfortunately for Norway, they are unable to stop the southern division, and the capital of the Norwegian country is taken. Another special division goes up. This area is pretty defended, but they go along this river navally and capture this city before they finally take this one and have a peace treaty to end this war. So, looking at a peace treaty, what do we think that's going to look like? Place your bets. What's the peace treaty going to look like? Well, if you said full annexation into the Swedish country, you'd be correct, as Norway ceases to exist and is now just annexed into Sweden, which looks pretty scary up here in the north, and they are pretty scary. In fact, they're so scary in their expansion because, Finland tries to send some diplomats over and Sweden's like, nah, go away, get gone. And this very much scares the Finns and the other Druidic countries, and in the end we see the Lapland country decide to join Finland. So these two countries unite to form one giant Nordic empire. I was going to say Scandinavian, but that's definitely not right. And people will be annoyed if I said that. Yeah, Finland is terrifying. Look how massive this country is. This country is huge. Oh my god. It looks really cool. Speaking of Finland, we actually should go over to the middle of the Atlantic Ocean to look at power rankings. Because in the last episode we lost Bulgaria and Greece, and that means that two more countries have had to join the top 10 rankings. So, Turkey is now the strongest country in the world, and that is going to be very important for this episode and a lot of the following episodes, because Spain, which was the previous strongest country in the last episode, has now just been dethroned. So they are now the second strongest country, but there's very little in between Spain and Turkey in terms of power. But Turkey definitely looks a lot bigger in Europe, but Spain's got all this power over here in the Americas. So that's where it's kind of evened up. But also this land is very valuable over here in Spain. Third place is Korea. There's definitely a bit of a gap between Spain and Korea, but Korea is definitely pretty strong. Southern India is one of the fastest growing economies in the world. They have a lot of territory, and they're also prospering from European trade. As you know, going around Africa is a thing that can be done now, and probably for a while, but they also trade a lot with Spain. Fifth is Bengal. They're pretty similar to southern India. They're just more trading with East Asia than Europe, which is, that's markets they're still in with for a while, but they also have a lot of colonies. Going over to sixth, it's Mesopotamia. Still, sixth is good. They're just kind of crumbling still. Seventh is the Orange country, which is Orange China, of course. They have a very long coastline and lots of colonies as well into Southeast Asia, so pretty strong there. Eighth is the Indigo country, which was 10th in the last episode, but they've now made it all the way up to 8th. They have a nice spot down here. Ninth is Finland, so that's why I went to Finland. They are the leader of the entire Druidic bloc, and they have a lot of power, lots of population. The land isn't super valuable, but they've owned it for a very long time, and they've managed to just be a very peaceful country who's grown all their power. And 10th is the Eastern German country, which is basically just Germany now, but they have a colony in the Americas, lots of good land, it's very flat, arable, lots of resources, and they've been prospering from the alliance of the Holy Polish Empire and trade with the rest of Western Europe, which has kind of got dependence on these guys. So there's that. That probably took a while. Let's go over to India. So in the last episode, we saw the creation of the Pentagon Alliance between the green and the red countries. As I said before, the green country also became, where is ideology? There we go. Became an oligarchy just like the red team. However, we are going to see a counter alliance created by Bengal. It's pretty predictable. They kind of need to face off against these guys, you know. So they'll be creating a new trapezium. Why the size 45? Oh my god. A new trapezium alliance is created in Bengal, and they will be adding one other country, and it's not going to be a super strong country, it's just going to be a country who's very afraid, and it's this bluish one. They are right in between the green and the red teams, and they might have discovered a few plans by these two countries to attack them, so they could link their borders. Theoretically, if they could go through India, or this country, but oh well, the blue country, or both blue countries, have now formed an alliance together, and we'll see how this evolves across India and this general region. Something else though, I've got to say, this bluish country right here, this periwinkle color country, I love their borders. I'm so proud of making this country. It looks so good. I'm very pleased with that. I mean, you look like some ill meerkat, but this country looks great. So that's nice. Anyway, they're both councils, which is another good thing. I talked about influence, I think, for a little bit. There's lots of councils down here in southern Asia, but we've also got other countries like these two absolute monarchies, although they both hate each other. There's a warrior thing over here. There's an aristocracy and a monarchy over here. You're a monarchy. This is full of monarchies like China. There's some random stuff going on over here in Central Asia with lots of monarchies and a random aristocracy over there. So yeah, lots of opportunity for these guys, and that's kind of the point of the thing. Like, I wanted to make sure there's lots of opportunity. So, what light did I just turn off? Oh, I'm stupid. Oops. I put the alliances on the wrong layer because I'm kind of dumb. Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, you should be used to me doing this stupid things now. Anyway, there you go. Bam. Oh, that is a horrible looking trapeze. Wow. There you go. I don't know what the bluish country is called. That area of India I'm not familiar with. They're going down to Bengal. They will finally fully colonize the Borneo the Borneo area, so that's okay. We can do it. Third time lucky. Fully colonize the Borneo area, so the entire island is a colony of theirs. Don't know why there's a city over here, but it probably took a while to colonize that. And on the same sort of time frame, the red country down here in southern India will also colonize a few of these islands near Bali and whatever else is down here. Getting towards the island of Timor, they're slow with it because they have less urgency, but they're also developing other colonies over here in Africa. For example, their Tanzanian colony, they expand it over to Lake Malawi or Lake Nyasa, whatever it's called now. I don't know. It used to be called like Lake Nyasaland or something like that. Maybe I'm just thinking Malawi. I'm not sure. There we go. The Lime country will also expand their borders just a little bit over here. They also trade a lot with the Indians because they're kind of dependent on their economy a little bit. But oh well. It's an alright country to be dependent on, probably. They're not going to attack you anytime soon. Don't worry about it. Anyway, heading over to Europe, we need to check on the Spanish country, because they're realizing that Turkey is going to become their rival for domination of the Mediterranean Sea. I mean, the next strongest country in the Mediterranean is the Mesopotamian country, then it's Egypt, and then after that it's like Carthage, maybe southern France, then Croatia. There's not that many strong countries in the Mediterranean, and they also feel like that if you dominate the Mediterranean, you're probably going to dominate Europe. So these two countries are starting to rival each other through trade and loads of other things. But Spain's realizing that these guys have an alliance, and Spain does not have an alliance. So what Spain's going to do is create an alliance, which is a good idea. Well done, Spain. So what shapes do we want to use for this? We've already used all those shapes. Got a triangle, do we have a parallelogram? I think we do. You could be the parallelogram alliance, couldn't you? Should it be a parallelogram, Spain? I can make you some of the hexagon sort of thing. But yeah, sure, you can be a parallelogram. So Spain will be creating a parallelogram alliance between themselves and one other country. Looking at Southern Europe, the Spanish realize that a very strategic position is here in Italy. So we're going to take a detour away from Italy and instead look at the spheres of influence across, not the world, I could do the world, but Europe. So let's start off with the Turkish sphere of influence. So of course they have basically just like Libya, going into northern Egypt, lots of this coastal stuff around Mesopotamia. They don't really influence these guys too much. Ukraine is within their sphere of influence, and some of these other countries, but not fully. Also, Ukraine's kind of got their own thing going on. But this is probably what the Turkish sphere of influence would look like. So it's massive. Going for the Spanish sphere of influence, they've kind of got something a bit like this, which is also pretty big. Lots of different countries in there. If you went over to like the English / Triangle Alliance sort of thing, it looks a bit like this. Ireland's kind of got their own one. Looks a bit like this. Sweden doesn't really. There's more of like a Holy Polish Empire one, like a united Holy Polish Empire sphere. That's kind of this area. Then Finland has their own sphere over all the Druidic countries. Something like this. Over here, it's probably Ukraine's own sphere of influence over here, but also potentially the Uralic country. They've kind of got a sphere over all of this stuff. But then Xinjiang's also got a sphere that's kind of these countries, but Xinjiang's also not that strong. Then, Mesopotamia's sphere looks a bit like this, but then the Indigo country has a sphere that looks something like this, and Egypt's got a sphere that looks something like this. So it's all right. That's a lot of lines. That's probably too many lines. But yeah, this is kind of what the spheres of influence in Europe look like. I just don't worry about Ukraine. I guess you could add those guys into, let's just throw them into Uralia's one, and / Caucasia. So this is kind of what the spheres of influence in Europe look like. These are the most powerful countries. The whole Holy Polish Empire acts almost as one thing. And there you go. As you can see, Italy's pretty divided, which is why the Spanish are thinking it is an important area to get. Of course, the southern Indian country down here, Italian, silly me, they are pretty aligned to the Turks because they recently won on the same side as the Turkish country within a war, which was to get all their land back from Greece. So they're not really one the Spanish can get as an ally, but instead they will go to the purple, beige, and bluish countries and try to find one of them that they actually kind of like. Looking at ideology, the purple country is a normal monarchy, whilst the rest of these countries are absolute monarchies, and you're meant to be just a normal monarchy as well, but apparently you're not, so that's good, thanks for that. Here's a square, here's a yellow, bam, there you go. So they're going to try and interview all the kings. The purplish country is very neutral. They're kind of like Venice in this timeline, but Venice was a lot poorer and didn't go colonize all the water. But they have like Venetian gardens and stuff, and other rich, posh things like that. The beige country is just anarchy. The king is very bad at ruling this country, but the blue country sees opportunity in allying with Spain, they get along pretty well, the kings of Spain and the king of the bluish country, and in the end, the Spanish country will introduce the bluish country into their alliance, which I suppose they were in by themselves for a little bit. But yeah, the blue country joins, and yeah, what does Spain do now they have an ally? Well, they take the blue country, go and invade the Spanish one. Also, Croatia didn't really care. They're very split up between influences, so they're not getting involved. Anyway, now that we've got this country on their side, they will tell the blue country to prove themselves with a lot of equipment from Spain as they invade the beige country, which has only the capital as a major city. This country, I said it was anarchy. Yeah, everyone's very, very poor. They move in pretty quickly into this area. Spain is a very technologically advanced country, so they do pretty well. However, the purple country decides to break their isolation because they are now very afraid, and they move into the purple country, actually taking the capital city along with Elba and all those islands over there. So in a peace treaty, it's going to be pretty predictable in that the beige country is just going to stop existing, basically. This is probably... Alright, there's not very much economic value in this country at all. So the blue country gets these 3 provinces, whilst the purple team gets the rest of them. That doesn't look very nice. So I'm going to give you just one more province, blue country. Croatia really does kind of screw up the borders over here in Italy. Croatia looks really cool, but the borders here do not look great. So there we go. That's what we're going to go with. You can also get this bit of Croatia. And there you go. Italy now has a few new powers in it. The blue country is not really that strong, neither the purple team, but they are slowly developing and making their way up there, and maybe they'll eventually be a powerful enough ally for Spain. They can fight the Turkish country. We'll see what happens in the future, but it should be pretty exciting. Let's move over to Japan then, as this island needs to go to war. Japan only recently became full of countries. This bit's still owned by the Koreans. Yeah, it's been kind of doing its own thing for a while, just being a colony, but now the countries have finally evolved and modernized, and they're deciding to go to war with this bluish country. So the yellow team and the blue team have been beefing over this island right here, which the yellow team says is theirs. They've actually owned it. You know, back in the colonial times, the yellow team's dynasty, or whoever was ruling over this point, actually owned this island. So this tiny island should be theirs. And for that reason, the yellow team begins an invasion into the blue team, which the blue team didn't really expect because they didn't think it would go that far. However, the blue team is quite prepared. They do pretty well at pushing back around this major city, and the yellow team is pushed back almost entirely to the capital city. It means they have to fall back all the way over here, and the blue team can make an invasion into the yellow team, making connection with the Pacific Ocean, which doesn't benefit them at all. How they do not manage to take the capital city, as the yellow team just re-invades around the capital city back into the blue team over here, moving towards this major city. Their capitals are on this bit. The war at this point is quite messy, but the blue team will just keep on invading, taking the capital city or its major city of the yellow team, whilst the yellow team manages to push back just a little bit around here, but the blue team's still doing pretty well in invading. Eventually, this dark blue country, which is by far the strongest country on this island, will also invade, taking this major city and pushing around, capturing this island, and eventually taking a lot of this stuff over. The yellow team will fully recapture all this territory as the blue team invades into this point. Then a very, very bloody battle happens as the majority of the blue team army is around this lake, but in the end, the dark blue and yellow countries both invade and take over this entire area. The blue team is starved of a military, and in the end, they just go to peace. So we can look at a peace treaty now. And it's probably not going to be great if you like the blue team. So we see the yellow country annex all 3 of these provinces up here in the north. That's all the provinces. You also get the stupid island that they really wanted. Yeah, it's not really that worth it. There's nothing there, but oh well. And as for the remainder of the... Okay, that's a stupid lake. As for the remainder of the peace treaty, we see the dark blue country take this bit and also take this province because I changed my mind. So yep, the light blue country lost a majority of their territory, including their other one major city, and they now have a very small country. So it's very sad. Anyway, there you go. Japan update. These 2 countries now you're kind of stuck. You're in a bad spot really, mate. Do we want to do another war in Japan? I think we know the answer. The answer is yes. Of course we're going to do another war in Japan, as the red country actually decides that what they would like to do is attack the blue team. The blue team, they just went into a war. Why not attack them again? In fact, there's no major cities in this country. Why will you not attack them again? Because the pink team actually has these two tiny bits of territory here, and what they're going to do is invade into your country. The pink team is actually slightly stronger than you might think, and they have help from this beige country, who's just kind of random and there. The pink team manages to stay on this bit and invade into this area, whilst the blue team has basically no military, but they do manage to just force some people to fight back against this country. In the end, the red team is realizing that their capital is in dire threat, it's a bad spot, and the dark blue country is actually kind of funding both these groups because they don't want the red country to fully annex both these islands and become really strong. So in the end, what the pink team does is capture the capital city of the red team. The blue team over here is also not fully, but they manage to remove the red team soldiers from their soil, and they actually send some peasants in to capture this sort of province area. Eventually, in not too long, like a month or so, maybe 2 months, the peace treaty will be signed where the pink team trades all the territory they got over here, including these two little bits around here. I don't really mean for them to own, but they did. Also some funny stuff on this island, which I did intend for. Mostly like mapping errors that I have. I kind of want to keep them in just because I think it'd be funny. Like this island bit, I think it's quite funny. But yeah, this beige country is really random. Anyway, the blue country, what they get is this entire island over here. So that's nice. And up here in the north, what we see happening is it's pink, not blue. Is this light, okay. That'd make you like really strong if you did that. This light blue country get this entire province from the red team, and they've got slightly stronger. So there you go. Here are the new borders of Japan. The pinkish country actually looks kind of strong at this point, which is pretty exciting. And yeah, we'll see what happens in Japan if any of these countries actually become kind of strong, or if they all just stay there and become really weak. So yeah, if you enjoyed today's episode, please like, subscribe, comment, things you want to see in the future, and wars and stuff, and colonization. We didn't do much in the Americas in this episode, but that's fine. We did stuff in Asia and other places instead. And yeah, like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you again next time. Goodbye.